Okay, so we said we can delay array creation because sometimes the size will depend on the user input. The dimension sizes, not the number of dimensions, but the dimension sizes. So anyway, the VB syntax for separate declaration and creation is not difficult. So you just do it like this. So if you want to just declare it, you just use this first statement. And you say as integer bracket like that. Okay? And this will be a two-dimensional array. Make an array reference here, specifying only the type and number of dimensions. Since we have one comma, it means two dimensions. Note one, here the indices follow the type and not the name. So he means you put these brackets here, not here. You might think you put them here. Right, because before we did put them here, but when we specified the actual dimensions, we'd put it actually here, but now we're putting it here. For example, private myArray as Boolean for a three-dimensional, because there's two commas, right? So it's three-dimensional array of type Boolean. This declares but does not create an array. No space is reserved in memory. Note this can be performed either locally or at the class level as desired. So you can do this in a local function, a block of code, or at the class level. And then later on you want to create it. So create an array in memory. So actually reserve the memory and use it. Typing the new keyword, so you have to put this new keyword here, followed by the data type of the array. So it's integer, so you have to write integer, and we're going to specify now the dimensions as well. Sizing. The upper bound of each dimension is specified in parentheses. So the largest indice is specified in parentheses. Initialization. A trailing this, remember sometimes we put the actual elements in here, but we just use it empty with values for each dimension also in brackets. And finally, you take all of this and you assign it to here, which was declared up here. Pass the new array to its declared reference. So this is the reference to it. For example, let's use this method to create a two-dimensional array. Here both declaration and creation are performed locally. Intermediate versus delayed creation. Now we have two different ways to create a simple two-dimensional array. So you can do it this way, or you can do it separate declaration and creation. So declare it like this, and then create it like this. In terms of array creation, each method has basically the same result. However, there's one important difference in name usage. Declared name myArray here can only reference the 4x5 array assigned to it. So I can only use this name to reference the array that's assigned to this. Declared name myArray2 can be used to reference any two-dimensional array. So one more example. So so I guess he's saying we have a two-level bus. So you know, a bus, a regular bus that you ride on, but let's say it has, you know, the bottom level and the top level. So we can say there are three dimensions for this bus, right? Because you know, you have two aisles, and then you have two levels, two upper level and lower level. So you have three dimensions. So we want three dimensions, so we have two commas. So we're going to talk about the passengers in the bus, and it's going to be, I don't know, Boolean, I guess means is there going to be a passenger in there or not. So we're going to say true if there's someone sitting there, and false if no one's sitting there. And then you do some code. And then next a local definition. I guess he means declare a local definition or create a subroutine for a local definition. Anyway, let's see. He says here's a subroutine, and it takes 3 arguments: levels, rows, and columns. Now this is not taking. Remember, we talked about using an array as an argument to a method. That's not what we're doing here. We have 3 separate variables, different than an array, I'd say. So my passengers equals new Boolean like this. And now we're actually doing this part of, in other words, we're creating the array. So first we, where did we, oh, here. Sorry, here we did the declaration. Remember, here we have the declaration, here we have the declaration, and then here in some method we're doing the creation. Okay, while very useful, arrays do present some limitations. All arrays must be of the same data type, while many real objects display characteristics that are a mixture of types. Arrays are essentially fixed size. VB methods for dynamically resizing are very inefficient and best avoided. Also can waste much space in cases with many empty elements. For this reason, what are called Visual Basic collections are also often used instead of arrays. We will see in coming lectures these provide several advantages. You can have mixed types, and it's not fixed size. Collections are preferable in unstructured situations where the concept of element order and total structure is not important. For example, keeping track of empty elements, and also keeping track of empty elements is not important. For example, an array is not good for modeling a line of customers, because a line of customers keeps changing, right? You have a line of customers like going to the movies, right? It keeps changing the length of the line and so on. So you wouldn't really want to use an array for that. On the other hand, arrays are good for cases involving more structure. So if you're talking about keeping track of empty filled seats on a tour bus, the bus has a certain number of seats that doesn't change, so you could use maybe an array in that case. Conclusion. In this lecture we began discussing Visual Basic complex data types, in which we combine several primitive data types, i.e. of either the same or different types, together to make a more complicated data structure. We had an in-depth look at our first such type, Visual Basic arrays, in which we construct and use an indexed array of objects all of the same type, declaring, initializing, and using VB arrays. And we also went through the for each loop, which is a new loop, an additional loop flavor designed specifically for lists. Resizing Visual Basic arrays, we talked about that using the redim and the preserve keywords. We talked about multi-dimensional arrays and delayed array creation.